Seb, Glasgow Distilling Company, Glasgow Distillery Company, correction. Can you tell me a little bit about the foundation of the company, when you started and your role, and then let's get into this whisky.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're part of the new wave of single malt whisky distilleries in Scotland. The distillery was founded in 2012 by two friends, Liam and Mike. And in 2015, we started our single malt whisky production. So we're just celebrating 10 years of whisky making this year. And we just launched our first 10-year-old single cask release a couple of weeks ago, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. My role in the distillery, I look after marketing, sales, and part of the whisky blending team as well. So involved everything from what goes into the bottle, how the bottle looks, and then how it eventually gets drunk by our customers.
That's pretty amazing to be able to go out and speak to people with authority, knowing the whole backbone of the whiskies that you're talking about, and having hands-on approach with regards to being a part of the team that's making the whisky.
Yeah, it's great. It's great because I get to see how the whisky lands with our different markets around the world, and then I can help kind of shape new whiskies for those different markets as well. I've been in the distillery for about 8 years, so I've been part of the process from a pretty early stage of when we started our whisky production. And yeah, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to, have a hand in many different parts of the business. But saying that, we are a very small team here. There's 16 of us that work full time in the company, so quite a few of us wear a few different hats.
Yeah. Bringing distilling back to Glasgow, essentially, right? Because on the bottle it mentioned 1770. That was well, you can tell me what that was.
Yeah. So we called the whisky Glasgow 1770 as a nod to the heritage and history that Glasgow has with whisky making traditionally. Glasgow used to have over 30 working distilleries in the city. Oh. And the original Glasgow Distillery Company, as they were known for a time, was founded in the year 1770. They closed in 1902. So when we opened in 2012, we thought, what better name to take than the Glasgow Distillery, of course, and as a nod to that heritage that we have with whisky making in the city, 1770. Very much trying to bring whisky making back to Scotland's biggest city, yeah.
I didn't know there was 30 distilleries once upon a time in Glasgow. I don't know if many people would know that. Some of the production choices that you've made, people talk about lowlands and highlands and different regions, and I'm curious to get your take on lowland whisky and what Glasgow 1770, where it fits in the regions, and do you believe in the regions even?
Sure. Well, when we were founding the distillery, the founding guys, they weren't too interested in creating what's typically known as a classic lowland style of Scotch whisky. They were very much just focused on creating a range of flavour and showing what contemporary modern distillation looks like in Scotland. And that's the reason why our production year is split into 3 different sections each year: triple distilled whiskies, unpeated double distilled whiskies, and peated double distilled whiskies. These are 3 totally different recipes, using different yeast strains, using different barley sources, of course, and different cask maturations across those 3 too. And it's those 3 production styles that inform our core range of single malts. So it's a celebration of 3 whisky creation styles, showcasing that broad depth of flavour, basically, that we can make in this one small, contemporary, modern urban distillery.
It's a lot of detail, it's a lot of effort, and I'm not just blowing smoke, but the whiskies that I've tried from your range have been really interesting, super flavourful, and varied. So it's not just tasting, the same with a slight different finish. There are 3 different distinct styles. Peated, unpeated, triple distilled, right?
Yeah.
Walk me through a little overview of those 3 styles.
So with triple distilled, which is the one we produce the least of each year, because we have 2 sets of 2 stills, so it's a bit of a challenge to make triple distilled whiskey that way, but we do it nonetheless. We use a different yeast strain that gives us a kind of fruitier wash, and then the cut points for triple distilled are a lot higher than our other styles. So we're getting this really nice, delicate, vibrant new make that's coming off of the stills. For our double distilled, we're using more standard distiller's yeast for this kind of richer, fruitier profile, and we've got a more medium cut, 63% for the unpeated, and then for peated, we've got a lower cut. So we're using peated malted barley that's coming to us from Aberdeenshire. So again, this lovely kind of mainland, floral, rich, aromatic smoke into the actual wash itself. And then low cut points cutting at 57%. So it gives us a super oily, rich, lovely textured style of spirit straight off the still.
Yeah, and for anyone that's watching that's not familiar with cut points, we're not going to get into that right now, but you can go and research it. But that's interesting. I don't know if I've heard of, not that I've been around every distillery, but I don't know if I've heard of cut points at 57. That's super low, isn't it?
Super low, almost like a smattering of low wines in your spirit. It gives you
Yeah.
this lovely rich texture and this oily characteristic across the palate. And like I say, the whole point from the beginning was just creating that variety of flavour, not just in the casks that we use or the age statements on the labels, but actually in the spirit creation itself. And I like to think of those three styles as like three different strands of core DNA that run through
Yeah.
our whiskey making. Almost like three different distilleries using
Yeah.
the same equipment each year, creating these three totally different new makes.
Which is really cool. I mean, obviously there's examples in the industry of peated and unpeated come from the same production facility.
Yeah.
But I don't know if doing all three together has been done or is being done.
There's a handful. So
Okay.
you've got Springbank with their different setups, I guess. They do something kind of similar.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly. And
People
then,
call it 2.5.
yeah.
But I haven't actually been to Springbank yet. It's on the list. I've actually been in touch with the people there. I'm curious to go and see how it compares and to hear about what this 2.5 thing is.
Yeah.
But triple distilled. Is anyone else doing triple distilled or contortion?
Yeah, so you've got Ben Riach and Ben Romack both do the three styles that we make as well.
All right.
Yeah, but it's not widely seen in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that just gives us a little bit of a difference.
Let's have a taste, shall we?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we're trying here is the Glasgow 1770 core range peated. Like all of our core range whiskies, 46% ABV. Everything we do, natural colour, non-chill filtered. This has been matured initially in virgin American oak, and then it's been finished for 8 months to a year in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. So what you're getting is the mainland peat smoke, which is
Yeah.
like campfire, bonfire, and then you're getting that sherry influence on top. So it really is a lovely marriage of sherry and smoke integrating in the bottle.
Sounds.
Slange. It's like rich smoky barbecue sauce, a lot of dark fruit. That bonfire, campfire element really making itself known.
It smells like a 3-course meal in a glass with that little sweetness, the smokiness.
You can't really go wrong with peat and sherry coming together. And for me, this is just that perfect harmony between the two. The spirit doesn't dominate the cask influence and vice versa. It just meets really nicely in the middle.
That is fantastic. I recently was at a tasting, it was a few months ago. It was the first time I tasted your brand, and I think it was the Marsala wine cask.
Yep.
It blew me away. Some similarities here with the smoke level, right?
Yep, same. It's the same style, so it's the same new make that would have been used for both.
Right.
So 50 ppm malt, mainland peat. Whereas this one went into virgin oak, the Marsala that we did. This is part of our small batch series, which we release at multiple times of the year. Basically, just experimenting with different cask influences.
Yeah.
And the Marsala was a fully matured 7-year-old whiskey in the Marsala casks, presented at cask strength as well.
And are you putting the age on these yet, or you are?
So the core range of three that we make, the peated, the original, the triple distilled, these are non-age statements because batch to batch the age varies a little bit. And what we're trying to do with those is hit a flavour profile, not necessarily an age statement. With our small batch series, they've all got the exact cask details on there, how long it's been in cask A, cask B if there is one, and they all have an age statement on them too.
Yeah. And the 10-year-old was just released in. That didn't last long, did it? I think you posted it on Instagram and it was sold out in a few hours, was it?
20 minutes.
20
yeah, it was 20
All right,
minutes.
show off.
And it would have been quicker if the website wasn't so slow.
Yeah, amazing.
It was great. It was a great reaction to our first 10-year-old whiskey, and it was really a celebratory release. So it was a single cask number 10 from 2015, our first year of production.
Nice.
And it was just a refill bourbon for full maturation. So really a celebration of the 10 years of spirit.
Yeah. And people say that bourbon barrels, because that's kind of the traditional type of cask in Scotch whisky, that is often said to allow the distillery character to show through more.
Definitely.
But then using these different wine casks and different types of finishing processes can add different accents to your spirit, right? So so that was a specific choice, was like, this one's going to be true to the brand, just bourbon barrel.
This is what the spirit tastes like in a cask that isn't overly dominant for just 10 years. Like, this is Glasgow Distillery DNA in a bottle, basically.
And it's super cool, you know, as someone that's from this general area. I grew up in the Ayrshire coast of Glasgow, spent all of my money going to nightclubs in Glasgow when I was a teenager, and you know, my family's all from the area, so rather than, you know, relying on the Islands and the Highlands and Speyside and a few lowlands and Campbelltown and all these traditional regions, getting into, you know, the heart of Scotland, Glasgow, the biggest city in the country, and having distilling come from here again, I think it's pretty special. Does that mean something to the folks that work on the brand? A lot of the folks that work in the company from Glasgow?
Yeah, there's a lot of people from Glasgow here. You know, the distillery itself is pretty much split down the middle, Celtic and Rangers.
I wasn't going to ask, but now you brought it up. Yeah, it's cool, and I suppose you'll be having this will be the Celtic release with the green label.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be something you're going to be looking into in the future.
I think we'll stay away from that one.
Yeah, the whiskey's delicious, and the fact that it's from Glasgow just makes it even more interesting. There's a lot of different finishes you've got on the market. Where do you see the brand going in the next few years, continuing down this line? Is there anything weird or wonderful that you can talk about that might be coming down the pipeline?
Sure. So we're really happy with the core range that we've got, and we're going to be maintaining those for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
The core range for me celebrates those 3 spirit production styles, and it really tells the story of 3 different styles of whiskey from one distillery. And we love the versatility of the light, bright triple distilled, the rich, smoky peated, and the original that sits in the middle. The small batch series we're going to keep going as well, because that is basically celebrating different cask influences on our 3 different styles. And that comes out a couple of times a year, and people look forward to those. They've got a good fan base. We have some cask strength whiskies that we release each year as well. So cask strength version of the peated, like we just tried, and cask strength version of the original. And those have been really popular. Into the core range, we're going to be adding 1 or 2 new bottlings. So the core range will be expanding over time with different cask influences that are not currently used in the core range. That's pretty much all I can say about that for now.
Yeah.
And then over time, we do have more plans to release some more 10-year-old whiskies as well, as our stock profile develops and we have access to more casks. 2016 was the first year we started producing peated whiskey. So next year we'll have our first 10-year-old peated release, just like we had our first unpeated 10-year-old this year. And 2017 was when we started triple distilled whiskies. So we'll have a further 10-year-old of that in a couple of years' time.
Releasing whiskies at a higher strength, you are leaving in more flavour there. There is more to offer. Yeah. And also, I think people talk about it being more customisable. What's your thoughts on higher strength whiskey in the bottle?
So minimum 46 is really important to us because it means you're not chill filtering.
Yeah.
And for us, it's all about packing as much flavour into the bottle as we can. Also, 2 of our kind of founding principles are about transparency and authenticity. And we want to make sure that what's going into the bottle is as unadulterated as possible.
Yeah.
So those are really important. Our small batch series generally tend to be in the high 50s. Mm-hmm. We tend to cut them down a little bit from cask strength. And for us, we're not focusing on, well, we have to hit that certain percentage.
Yeah.
It's more about each release just finding where it sings in the bottle. So every release that we do in the small batch series is bottled at where we think it's at its peak.
Yeah.
And we try it at a lot of different strengths just to get to that point. And for me, the more alcohol in the bottle, the higher the ABV, the more flavour that's packed in there.
Yeah.
And I love higher strength whiskies because if you don't like it at that strength, you can reduce it. Yeah. Add a bit of water, find your level with it.
Yeah.
You can't do it the other way around.
You can't. It does, you know, I recently took a bottle of cask strength whiskey to a friend's house in Canada. Some friends of mine that like whiskey but not really super geeky about it, not maybe you know, as focused on it as we might be. And it scared them off a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had to encourage them to add water, and they were adding lots of water. And, you know, I think high strength whiskey can scare people off. So I think it's smart to have 46%, where it's kind of, I always think of somewhere between 45 and 50 being a sweet spot for me. You know, I'll still add a touch of water, and on occasion an ice cube, and I'll keep talking about that because that's just how I like to drink whiskey. But, you know, I picked up a couple bottles the other day, 60%, and big pack of flavour. But it can be a little bit intense.
Sure.
So I think it's smart what you're doing with the 46%.
Yeah, well, hopefully there's something for everyone in the range of whiskies that we make, not just in terms of alcohol strength, but in terms of flavour profiles too. If
Seb could make his own bottling.
Yeah.
I know you're involved with the whiskey making process, but if you could create something unique for yourself, being selfish, do you have something in mind?
Well, my favourite whiskies tend to be just bourbon influenced whiskies.
Right.
I like a nice mellow kind of honey, tropical fruit,
Okay.
a little bit of caramel and toffee in there. So I really like whiskies that don't have a huge amount of too heavy cask influence. So for me, if every distillery in Scotland could just produce a nice bourbon only forward whiskey, that would be my choice.
I think that's pretty cool actually. You know, you can just have an opportunity to just taste that distillery in sort of a naked form almost.
Exactly.
You know, I love the sherry. You know, we talked about this earlier. I love the sherry casks. I love the peated. That combination for me just is really right up my street. But I like peated. I like non-peated.
Yeah.
I like to go around. We're just checking time here. Right. So we are running out of time. This has been amazing. Glasgow Distillery Company. Seb, thanks for your time. Thanks for showing me around today. I know you're not up for tours yet.
A pleasure.
But that's coming soon, and so we'll announce that when it's here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Look forward to sharing more whiskey with you in the future.
Absolutely.
Cheers, pal.